What is going on, everyone? Colonel Cottonbelt here. Looks like I got Nathan Delay in the chat. So what's going on, Nathan? Sitting here trackside. I'll tell you this, not much is happening as far as like what's running on the rails. I only work about 10 blocks away, and I typically can hear the trains from a distance. And I haven't heard anything this morning, so that could be a good thing. And it could be not a good thing. Don't know. Just right now, I have not heard of any traffic moving. It could be that they're waiting on people to come in and get the train traffic flowing. Or it could be that the rails up ahead are clogged up. So, sitting here at the tracks, we'll see if anything happens within the next, about 45 minutes, 30, 45 minutes. So, hey, we got Steven, Wigwag Workshop here. What's going on, Steven? And hello again, Andy. And I apologize if I get a little cut off in my sentences because I just slammed my lunch. So, so that way I can get on here and talk to y'all. Feel a little parched. There we go. And we got Joe Rader in the house. What's going on, Joe? So, yeah, like I said, this is kind of spur of the moment. Not really much happening. I finally got all the videos recorded for the traveling boxcar video. I still got to do some editing on it and hoping to get that out pretty soon. Hey, we got Tim with CP 368 Productions, and we got Kyle Stevens in the house as well. What's going on, guys? So, yeah, not much happening. I can tell you this, I do have a master plumber coming to the house later today, so looks like I will not be working on anything model trains after I get off of work, because I have to entertain him and show him what all I need, hoping he can get me a price relatively quick. So we'll see. So what's going on in y'all's world of model railroading? I know Joe is anxious to build 3 refineries for my layout, because he kind of mentioned that earlier today in Dave's stream for his brew crew. Yeah, how is recovery going, Steven? Just wanted I know you had a procedure done fairly recently, so hopefully you're getting a speedy recovery. Tim's going to take the check for his barn repairs to the bank. Nathan says he bought a train ticket February 14th for the Reading and Northern. I'm going to do the same ride like I did before. Differences, I'm going to use a 2003 camera for nostalgia. Okay. Seems pretty cool, Nathan. I don't know what this dollar... There's like a little dollar thing on my screen here. I'm afraid to hit it. Hey, Derek Alexander. What is going on, buddy? Lunch. So I had Sonic again, but this time I did not have what I had the last time. I believe I went live Monday, for Happy New Year, and I had the smash burger on Monday. Today I did my normal chili cheese coney with grilled onions and mustard. I'm telling you, it's fire. Really good. Especially when you add the grilled onions and mustard. And then I did some cheese fries on the side. So that was today's lunch. And I still feel a little bit of the cheese in my teeth. So, but that's what happens when you get melty cheese, right? So, All right, let's see here. So Steven says, good news, the softball-sized tumor that he had removed, they got all of the cancerous tissue removed, but there's still probably still surrounding cancerous tissue there. I need to get a body MRI. Yeah, cancer is no joke. Hopefully they get you taken care of. I've got a friend that she has just been recently diagnosed with a triple negative breast cancer, and she's younger than me. So I'm hoping, I'm sending good vibes her way as well. So I will keep you in my thoughts and prayers, Stephen, that they got it all and that there's no more left, that you're in remission. Nathan says, Do I often eat the same thing, or do I change it up every once in a while? A little of both. So I am one of those that when I go to a restaurant and I find something I really like, I just order it over and over and over again. Every once in a blue moon, I might change it up to something else, but typically, I'm not the type to go and order something different every time I go. And typically, if I do order something different every time I go, it's not because the food was bad, because if the food's bad, I'm not even going back to that restaurant. But if it wasn't something that I thought I was going to like, then I'll try something else. Because it could be something that, it didn't really hit the spot, but it was still good food. So, and that also goes with a sit down restaurant. If I don't get good service, I won't go back. Even if the food is outstanding. If the service is crap, I won't go back. Oh yeah. You got to be careful with that, Wigbag. You don't want them to find that hidden cigar. Oh, looks like we do have a train. How about that? So, unlike last time I stood outside, I'm not doing that today. So, I'm going to have to hold the camera. Let's see here. So, this is probably going to be the very first train of the day to come through town. And I am in my wife's car, so that's why I don't have the clamp. But it's coming. And I can still talk to y'all because if I'm out there, I can't hardly focus on anything. Hey, we got JD in the house, Grandpa Rails. What's going on, JD? All right, here it comes. Mixed freight. Ooh. How about that? That look like that's a SD45, that second unit. Not many of those still roaming the rails. And I can tell this is a heavy train because I can feel the car shaking. So, it looks like we got James in the house. What's going on, James? So Nathan is saying, interesting. I would change the food up just a bit for a change of pace and taste the same thing over and over again, like getting old. Well, Nathan, like what I do is I've got quite a few different restaurants I'll go and get food from, but over here by the tracks, there's only two. It's either Sonic or Little Caesars Pizza. And well, take that back. There is a third one. You got Chick-fil-A, and we eat Chick-fil-A quite a bit. And I was thinking about going to Chick-fil-A until I saw the drive-through line was pretty backed up, and I was like, nope, headed to Sonic. So, man, y'all getting a good train today. All right, just kind of fast forwarding through some comments here. I want to try to stay caught up. See, that's me. When I eat something good, I usually stick to it. Absolutely. Yeah, there's some rusty stuff on here for sure, Andy. Pal, it could have been an SD50. I'm not going to rule that out. Very well could have been an SD50. I think the SD60s had the full size cab. But that was like an older style cab that you saw run, pre-90s. Oh, DPUs. All right, there you go. So how about that? We got a train after all today. All right, I'm gonna put back on my ugly mug. There we go. Yeah, if I can get that to sit without falling like I did earlier. There we go. Yeah, that very well could have been an SD60, Kyle. But I do know they still got some 45s running around, and there's not that much of a difference between a 45 and a 50. So, Jason, I'm used to seeing locomotives that you find rare, including Jeep 30s, but I find it interesting that every place has a different same locomotive. Jeep 30s are really not as rare as you think they are. They look a lot different than a lot of the other GPs. And I think it's because they have like a little bit of a bigger cab. So it's something about the cab of the Jeep 30 that looks different than from like a Jeep 35. But they're really not that rare. If you're wanting to talk about like a rare EMD locomotive, that would be like a CF7. And there's still a few of those floating around, not many, but that's a rare locomotive right there. Is the car shaking from the onions you ate? Oh no, not yet, Derek. That takes some time to kick in, man. That definitely takes some time to kick in. Exactly, Andy. The Onion Pacific service that makes you cry. Hey, we got Russ's Rocking Railroad in the house. What's going on, Russ? So far my day is going pretty good. So, like I was saying, Nathan, it was either Chick-fil-A, long line, Sonic, or Little Caesars Pizza. Typically, I always do Little Caesars Pizza on Fridays, especially when Steve goes live. So, if you're not subscribed to Steve Childers, the Retirement Railroad 2.0, you should do so, because he has me, C&D, John, and Lynn McCurdy typically almost every Friday, 10:30 a.m. Central Time. And we'll get on there and chat. And so typically I'll go and get me a pizza for that because I'll eat half the pizza myself, and then I take the other half home and I give it to Junior, and that's his dinner while me and Amanda go out on a date night. So it's called Thinking with Your Noggin. All right, catching up. So 45 has flared radiators, 50s don't. Could be a 40. I don't think 40 has flared radiators. 40-2s and 45s are my favorite SDs. Yeah, and that is a true statement. Not all SD45 had flared radiators. I want to say some of the SPs didn't, and cotton belts didn't have flared radiators either. So James preferred Jeeps, so he likes the 4 axles versus the 6 axles, even though there's really no difference except for the 2 extra traction motors. That's the only difference. Those are SD45-2s, Kyle, not SD45s. And an SD45-2 is exactly an SD45, but with some added modifications. Most of the time, it's on their electrical system, but not always. I know a lot of the railroads would add there goes a backhoe. A lot of railroads would have added the window for the engine room on the door. That was one of the most noticeable things, like when you differentiate between like an SD45 and a SD45-2 Same with like a GP38 and a GP38-2. So yeah, probably on the 45. That could be correct, Tim. I'm not 100% sure on that, but that, so like EMD, you basically 4 axles were GP, 6 axles were SD. That's like GE. If you go back to like the U-boats, like a U-25, U-30s, U-33s, or even the dashes, like the dash 7s, dash 8s, dash 9s. If it had a B on the front, it was a 4 axle. If it had a C on the front, it was a 6 axle. So like a B30-7 or a C30-7. That was really the only difference. But basically that model or the number would determine what is the prime mover in there and what is the type of generator that feeds the different traction motors. Or it could be maybe it has a different traction motor. All right. Well, we lucked out. How about that? And we didn't have to wait till the very end of the stream either. So the TH&B, they had Jeeps. Did they not have anything GE or Alco or Baldwin? I'm trying to think. Morse Fairbanks. Is there another one I'm missing? Baldwin, Morse Fairbanks, Alco, GE, EMD. I think that's it. There might be another one out there. Yeah, 220, 221, whatever it takes, quote from Mr. Mom. They had NW2s, SW9 switchers. So now when they came out with the NW1s, NW2s, they also had SW1s and SW2s. And the N and the W and the S and the SW1, SW2 did not mean switcher. They changed that when it went over to the SW7. And so the SW7 and beyond would have meant switcher for SW. NW stood for it was 900 horsepower, and the W stood for it was a welded frame. So that's what that meant. Nathan is saying, Jason, my boss at one of the jobs likes buying Jeeps, but he couldn't get normal Jeep because he had to get a normal car. But same brand, I always joke about him. Are you going to get a Barbie Jeep? No. No Jeep for me. I've already got a truck that can do semi off-road. I don't need a Jeep. I got something that could pull a Jeep out of the mud if a Jeep got stuck. So they use GP9s for passenger service. So they probably were called a GP9P because typically a GP9 would not have the steam generator or the water tank. EMD modified some of their Jeep 9s and they called them GP9Ps. SP had those as well that they ran on the commuter lines out west in California. And it would come with a shorter fuel tank because they're not going long distance. But they would, it looked like one solid tank, but it was actually the front was fuel, behind it was water, and they had a steam generator up in the short hood. Because that's how they, heated the passenger cars, and the HVAC system in those cars used steam as well to condense it. I don't know exactly how that works as far as the mechanicals, but it was probably a GP9P. Cotton Belt had a GP7P, and it was the only GP7 in the whole Southern Pacific system. And when I mean SP system, I'm talking Southern Pacific, Cotton Belt, and Texas and New Orleans, which was SP's other subsidiary. right, let's see here. Steven says, I love old school switchers. Used to watch them work at the Bucyrus Erie factory in South Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That's pretty cool. So I've got an EMD NW2 that I bought from Walters. I think it was about a year ago. And it's undecorated, which means it's going to get a custom paint job. Because Cotton Belt had 4 of them. And I definitely want an NW2. And that's going to put me at 5 switchers, which I think might be too many. So I'll probably end up selling one of them. I want to keep 4 of them for sure, but I don't know if I really need 5 for a yard. And Cotton Belt never MU'd any of their locomotives, so they never ran them outside of the yard. But I've got 2 Baldwin VO1000s. I've got a SW7 and SW9, and now I'm going to have an NW2. I might get rid of either the 7 or the 9. The only reason why I want to keep the 2 VO1000s is I hear some weird siren. Sounds like someone's burglar alarm's going off or something, fire alarm or something. That's weird. Okay, I don't hear it no more. That was weird. But the VO1000s, there it goes again. I don't think y'all can hear it. It's kind of faint, but it's annoying. And it just went off. Let's see if it goes off again. There it goes. Well, this is making my stream a little interesting. Okay, so the VO1000s, the main thing with those is I've got 2 of them. One is an old Stewart Hobbies, which I'm going to repaint because it hasn't been detailed yet, even though it has all the detail parts in the box. But then I've got a newer Bowser one that's, in the correct paint scheme, that it's supposed to be. So I'm going to leave it as is. The VO1000s, when the Cotton Belt got their first batch, Baldwin did a run for the Atlantic coastline. And of course, the ACL backed out on their orders. So Baldwin had, I think it was like a handful of purple and silver VO1000s. Well, they sold them to the Cotton Belt at a discounted rate. And so they didn't repaint them. All they did was put St. Louis Southwestern on the hood. So I'm going to do a purple and silver Cotton Belt VO1000 because it's a pretty neat piece. The only picture or reference that I can find that I have in my Cotton Belt Locomotives book, which there is another copy on the website for sale, is in black and white. All right, catching up in the chat. Oh, your boss is getting a Barbie Jeep, Nathan? That's funny. Oh, a GE 50-tonner. Okay, so Cotton Belt didn't have any GE switchers. All of their switchers were EMDs. Well, in the Baldwins, the VO1000s. They did have a center cab locomotive, but it was a Baldwin. Is it a DRS 66 1500? It was basically like 2 switchers put together, but it's a 6-axle locomotive. Hey, Andrew, what is going on? All right. So James is saying most of the Jeeps on the THMB were converted to GP9Us. And Ray Ron is here. What's going on, Ray Ron? Use the 5th as a pretend parts locomotive. Yeah, I could do that too. I could definitely do that. And we got Stormy Steve in the house. What's going on, Stormy Steve? So definitely trying to catch up in the chat. Looks like a lot of people are saying hi to people. All right. So back in the day, the conductor let me jump aboard a few. I was like 11 years old, could never do that nowadays. Not at all. That started phasing out in the early 90s, or I know on the Cotton Belt it did. 92, that was pretty much, it was done. And 92 is when the Rio Grande and SP merged, and that's when the SP fully absorbed the Cotton Belt. So the SP owned the Cotton Belt since 1932, which they only owned the stock. They allowed the railroad to operate as its own entity. So it operated as its own Class 1 railroad. So it wasn't really a merger per se. It was kind of like, let's say that, right now you got this UPNS merger going on. That would be like Union Pacific going and buying all of Norfolk Southern's stock. Well, if that was to happen, then UP ends up becoming the owner of Norfolk Southern, but they would allow them to operate as their own entity. And it wouldn't be UP as a whole thing. You would still have NS as a separate railroad. And a lot of railroads did that back then. So, and when you think of like some of the other railroads, leasing companies, like the fruit companies, like Pacific Fruit Express, SP and UP own like half of the shares, of stock for those as well. So that's when they had both their logos on the car. There was a lot of the Fruit Express ones. FGE was another one. Great Western Express, I think, was another one that had like Great Northern and Western Pacific, I think, was on it. So, excuse me. All right, Nathan says, when I was 10 years old, me and my dad were waving at an excursion train mini switcher with side rods, diesel engine. It stopped and let us get on. That was my first cab ride in 2010. Okay. Well, when I was a little lad, my grandpa worked for the Cotton Belt Railroad, and I got to go hang out at the yard a few times. And he worked over in caboose supply. That was his job when they were still running cabooses. And so I got to hang out with all the conductors, which one of them was my great uncle. And so I helped him go and carry stuff, and got to go play in the cabooses, got to go up in the cupolas and whatnot. And it was a lot of fun. We had some bay windows too. So, all right, Stormy Sky says that's like CP pretty much always had stock in the Sioux line. My paychecks still say Sioux line on them for tax purposes, even though CP owned them for 30 years. It was the same thing, yeah. So my grandpa, he worked for the Cotton Belt. Then in 92, of course, that transitioned to the SP. That was after the SP Rio Grande merger. That's why SP had the speed lettering, was because they owned Rio Grande. Technically, it was actually Rio Grande that bought SP. And then in 96, you got the merger into Union Pacific. Technically, SP bought UP and renamed to UP. You can go look it up. It's legit. So who really owns Union Pacific? Rio Grande, if you really think about it. So, let's see here. C&O had controlling interest in B&O for years before Chessie. Yeah, a lot of railroads did that. That's odd that SP owned the stock of Cotton Belt and let them run it. You would think that they ran a major railroad and didn't want to manage the belt. Well, it's for tax purposes, because let me put it, if you have one major railroad and it bumps you up to the highest tax bracket, then you're paying the most in taxes. But at the time, if your railroad was a subsidiary, then that would take your overall capital down. And because then, as SP is only having to pay in the bracket they're in, Cotton Belt's having to pay in the bracket they're in. So both of them come in at a lower bracket, but if you put them together, then it puts them at a higher bracket. And that's why railroads today don't really do that anymore. You just got all these mergers happening, and I think it's because they're, planes and trucks is really taking a lot of their business away. On the freight side, the passenger side, you just got Amtrak, and that's it. So Nathan says, actually, my boss always gets a Steelers color like black and yellow, but I always like to joke about getting a Barbie Jeep. Yeah, you should tell him to get a hot pink one, man. He would definitely stand out a lot more than a yellow. Yo, we got Aaron at Men's Shed, Railroad in the house. What's going on, Aaron? You missed the train, dude. We had a train earlier. All right, James, have a good one. Yep, I got to get going here pretty soon, too. My lunch break is almost over. Let's see. I'm just going to kind of scroll through. The guys on the CP local when I was a kid were D&H employees. All the CP guys in New York were D&H until fairly recently. Pretty much. And so he retired in 96, less than 60 days. So in 92, when they did away with the cabooses, he became a hostler. And of course, I was no longer allowed to come to the yard and hang out with them. That sucks. Because that would have been even more fun is getting to go ride in the cabs of the locomotive than playing in the cupolas while they're just stationary. Yep. All have to dance around anti-monopoly laws and regulations too. There you go. And we got Dwight Kerley here. What's going on, Dwight? I don't see another train coming, but that one snuck up on me. And sitting in Amanda's car, I don't get the height that my truck has, so I have to kind of look up and over the the embankment of the road. So, yep, that's what CP worked with all the Milwaukee guys until the last 5 years. Now all the Milwaukee guys are all gone. I'm glad I got to work with them. Yep. Well, my grandpa, he retired, like I said, less than 60 days after the merger took place in 96. So technically he worked for the Cotton Belt, then the SP, then the UP. And so I've got his watch, his retirement watch at the house. I've got a lot of his railroad stuff that he had, pins, for the years of service, and I'm not talking about like the lapel pins. I'm talking like the writing pins too. I got his belt buckle and his belt, which I shared that on previous live streams. It's really, really nice. I got cufflinks of his that were railroad related. But his watch is the only thing that I think is UP. I'm supposed to be getting his lanterns and his hard hats, and I haven't gotten those yet. And he's got some awards that he won as well that's like on the wall, and I'm supposed to be getting those as well. So I kind of want to do a shadow box. All right, Reading and Northern Railroad. When I first met the owner of the railroad named Andy Mueller, he let me into the steam shop. Normally people can't go in the steam shop, but with his permission. Yeah, that was like when I went to the Durango in Silverton with the soundtracks class. We actually got a full tour, not just of the museum that anybody can go in. No, we actually got to go in all of the shops. Got to actually watch a steam locomotive come in and turn on the turntable. Clutch belt? I'm not sure what you talk about, Nathan. Cotton belts because of my grandpa. My dad never worked for the railroad, but it would have been my grandpa. And it's because I got to hang out with him as a kid. That's really the reason why. If I was to tear my layout out and do something a little more simplistic, I would probably do the Georgia Pacific plant in Crosset, Arkansas, which was operated by the Ashley Drew Northern. That would be a cool layout because then I could say, hey, they actually have a loop of track. It's like a triangle. And I would have 3 industries with and then I could do a staging yard. That's pretty much how the railroad is there. So one of my relatives worked for the DL&W almost 50 years. They forced him in retirement just before he would have gotten his watch. So he did early retirement. He wasn't forced. He just did not want to work for the people at UP at the time because of the type of people they were. And so he had the option to do early retirement, but he got full retirement out of it. And then he took up painting as a job afterwards. Jason, last time you two meet in Ingrid in Canada, we were told if we took pictures, even one person did it, everybody gets kicked out of the shop. Luckily, it never happened. Oh, I got pictures somewhere of the shops at Durango. That was a lot of fun. So, well, guys, I'm having a lot of fun here talking with y'all, and I hate to cut this short, but unfortunately, I got to get back to work. Otherwise, I'm going to be in trouble, and I ain't trying to get in trouble. So, with that being said, I appreciate y'all joining me and hanging out. Before you leave, make sure that you hit the thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe, fill in the bell. You'll be notified when I go live again. And so, but yeah, that thumbs up, that really helps me, guys. So if you can do that, I would greatly appreciate it. So other than that, y'all be safe out there. I'll see y'all next time. Happy railroading.